So I want to show you this clip of Ben Shapiro talking about the Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes controversy, where essentially Tucker Carlson interviews, in a very fawning kind of interview, Nick Fuentes, who is modern day Nazi. Just look at his videos, you'll see. Deeply anti-Semitic. And Tucker does a fawning interview, doesn't challenge him, unlike his interview, say, with a Christian Zionist like Ted Cruz. And after this, the Heritage Foundation, which is a cornerstone conservative think tank lobbying group in America, put out a statement because many people were saying, you're very closely aligned with Tucker Carlson. They pay for big bucks for adverts in his shows. And the head, Kevin Roberts of the Heritage Foundation, put out a statement saying there's a venomous coalition trying to stop us, trying to sow division in the conservative movement and stop us from being associated with Tucker Carlson. Now, I've got a lot to say on this in a moment, and I want to show you what Ben Shapiro has to say. But before I show you that, I actually want to show you a fantastic interview with Kevin Roberts soon afterwards, where clearly he was doing damage control, because many conservatives thought, hold on one second, why am I the venomous coalition for standing up and saying, hold on, someone in our movement, a leading light of our movement, is saying these abhorrent views and platforming these abhorrent views without any pushback. I'm going to stand up against that. Why isn't he the venomous one? Why isn't he the one stoking division? Why am I the one stoking division that's calling this out, calling for moral clarity on my own side? And watch this brilliant, brilliant moment with Dana Lash, who interviews Kevin here, the head of the Heritage Foundation, where she kind of holds him to task for this. Have a watch.
A lot of people feel confusion because they feel as though their criticisms, which seem to be scripturally based, are being maligned as the division that is being sown, or that's what is being described as venomous. And I think a lot of individuals find that hard to reconcile, especially when it's said in defense of someone who would say that they hate Christian Zionists, or they hate people like Mike Huckabee or Ted Cruz because they support Israel as a U.S. ally. Why doesn't that description go both ways?
That description can go both ways. What we're trying to do is eliminate that kind of venom both directions.
Is it venomous to say that you hate Christian Zionists?
Oh, of course it is. I've been really clear, not just yesterday and today, but my entire career, that and the Heritage certainly has in its entire existence, that those kinds of things are just abhorrent. I said that literally yesterday.
Because Tucker said those things. So that would be, is that not sowing division?
It's certainly not helpful, but it doesn't mean that he ought to be canceled, because if in fact,
well, that's not the question. It's not whether he should be canceled. Is that sowing division to say things like that?
Oh, it's certainly in a lot of our friends' minds. But the point.
But you didn't put that in your statement, though.
Because the proximity or the context for the statement was something very different. And that was, as we were talking about a few minutes ago, all of the pressure that Heritage was receiving to cancel Tucker, which is just not, we wouldn't do that to you. We wouldn't do that to him. We wouldn't do it to friends who have other ideas, because ultimately what that looks like is sort of the purges of the French or Russian Revolution. And we get a conservative
right. And I don't mean to interrupt you. I don't disagree with you necessarily in terms of, if that in terms of some of the comparisons, but what you call cancellation, I saw people trying to have some accountability and say, well, this seems like this only goes one way. Heritage put out a statement calling everyone who criticizes this, venomous and sowing division, but yet they were silent when, there was criticism of Ben Shapiro accusing him of basically being an agent of Israel, or going after Mark Levin for something similar, or going after Mike Huckabee or Ted Cruz. And so how is that not canceling of those individuals, but criticism of the way Tucker handled his interview considered cancellation? That seems entirely hypocritical.
What Tucker does. Heritage.
But I'm talking about your statement, though, that you released.
No, which I was about to address.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Heritage was not engaged in those comments about those people. I don't support those comments for those other friends in the movement. But the key point is, Even in spite of that, it doesn't mean that we were going to call for the cancellation of Tucker. We're not going to call for the cancellation of anybody. We think that's ultimately counterproductive to the conversation that we need to have.
So I thought it's a really weak interview, to be honest, from Kevin's side. He's being completely morally inconsistent. You know, we're just calling out the venomous coalition, but he says that it is venomous and stoking division to say that you hate Christian Zionists more than anything else, which Tucker did. And I also find it odd that he says, you know, it would be cancel culture to call out Tucker Carlson or to say this is too much. I think this is just a straw man, to be honest. Let me give you, or show you rather, a video that I put out just yesterday on Instagram, which I think gets to the heart of all his arguments. The big debate raging right now on the conservative right in America. It's all about whether it's cancel culture to call out people on your own side. It started after Tucker Carlson's interview with Nick Fuentes, a man who's openly praised Hitler, mocked Jews, and peddled hate. Tucker gave him a soft, fawning, unchallenging interview, unlike Tucker's interview with, say, Ted Cruz. And when conservatives criticised that, suddenly the cry from other conservatives went, "Oh, here we go again, cancel culture." But hang on, why is it free speech when Tucker speaks, but not free speech when people criticise him? You can't have it both ways. This isn't cancel culture, it's moral clarity. Politics is supposed to be about values, about truth, right and wrong. If you can't call out bad values when they come from your own side, then what exactly are you defending? And honestly, what are we even saying? That no matter what someone says, no matter how evil an idea may be, if they're on your side, you must stay silent. Come on. That's not loyalty, that's moral blindness. And let's be clear, calling someone out isn't the same as cancelling them. It doesn't mean banishing them from public life. It just means saying, those ideas are wrong. That behaviour is beneath the standard we should expect. That's not censorship, that's accountability. That's what a healthy culture does. If your definition of cancel culture is criticising someone I like, then what you really want isn't free speech, it's immunity from criticism. Accountability isn't cancellation. Condemnation isn't censorship. It's the immune system of a moral society. Because if we only defend truth when it's convenient, we don't actually believe in it. So no, denouncing evil isn't cancel culture, it's integrity. So I really don't think any of this should be particularly surprising or shocking for anyone. And, you know, I don't even know, look, Heritage didn't even necessarily need to say anything, but if you're going to, then you need to, you know, talk about Tucker, then I think they should state where, he's gone wrong. And number two, I don't understand this principle of saying, because someone's on my own side, therefore I must stand side by them in the public sphere, with no matter what they say, never say, well, I think that's wrong to say that. It's just moral blindness. It's ridiculous. So I think Kevin's statement actually was really, really, really weak and concerning, and even a bit alarming, to be honest. I'm sure he's, I don't want to make strong assumptions about his intent, and maybe he'll try and clean up the mess he's made right now. But it is concerning. I want to show you what Ben Shapiro had to say about the Heritage Foundation as well in this statement. Have a watch.
I have a long and admiring relationship with the Heritage Foundation. One of the very first outlets to pick up my syndicated column when I was 17 years old, 24 years ago, was townhall.com, then a property of the Heritage Foundation. I know most of the leadership very well, and I have for decades. I know Kevin Roberts, and I like him, and I'm grateful for his contributions to the conservative movement. If you're a regular watcher of this show, you can check the interview I did with Kevin on the release of his book just last December. Which is why what Kevin Roberts did last week is tragic and awful. He put out a statement that Heritage Foundation didn't just stand by Tucker Carlson. Kevin instead said openly and repeatedly that Tucker Carlson can do nothing, ever, that will sever his relationship with the conservative movement. He said that after and in defense of Tucker's glossing of Hitler defender Nick Fuentes. And he added that only members of the globalist class, direct quote, a venomous coalition, direct quote, subject to the dictates of someone else's agenda, direct quote, oppose Heritage's ongoing relationship with Tucker Carlson, which means that according to Kevin Roberts, apparently, anyone opposing the ongoing mainstreaming of Tucker Carlson is acting on behalf of a foreign power. Kevin's statement is a betrayal of the Heritage Foundation's history and principles, which is presumably why both Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes loved it. And that's a tragedy, because America needs a robust conservative organization based on principle and ideas, not personal loyalty to bad actors like Tucker Carlson. We need strong leaders in the conservative movement willing to speak out against the moral rot that threatens our future. I hope Kevin Roberts and Heritage show us that they can still be those leaders. But if not, we'll have to look elsewhere. So, why is all of this happening? Because, like the Democratic Party, the Republican Party is being eaten by its radicals. Many in the political class are too cowardly to stand up. Apparently, they're willing to play footsie with groypers and hug Tucker Carlson out of fear of somehow losing support. They've been bamboozled by the lies of the X algorithm and the TikTok metrics. The left followed its radicals to electoral hell. Apparently, many on the right wish to do the same. Forget the morality, then, for just a moment. Let's be pragmatic. Here is the thing. Americans hate Nick Fuentes' philosophy. They think it's trash. Republicans, by the polling, think it's trash. Independents think it's trash. Democrats think it's trash. And here's the other thing. Americans hate Tucker Carlson's laundered anti-Americanism. Republicans think it's trash. Independents think it's trash. Democrats think it's trash. Americans are not pro-segregation, pro-rape, anti-woman, pro-child marriage, anti-black, anti-Jew, anti-Indian, anti-Latino, anti-Constitution, pro-Hitler nutjobs like Nick Fuentes. And Americans are not pro-Putin, pro-Iran, pro-China, pro-Venezuela, pro-Hamas, pro-Fuentes, pro-Tate idiots like Tucker Carlson. They hate this vile garbage. If Republicans decide to cower before the likes of neo-Nazis and their propagandizers, they deserve to lose. And they will lose. Neo-Nazis and their propagandizers are not Republicans. They are not America First. They are not MAGA. They sure as hell aren't conservative. These people aren't to my right. They are not attached in any way to the fundamental principles of conservatism. And these people have already declared themselves to be my enemies. I'd be a fool not to take them seriously. If they get their way, they will hollow out the Republican Party, lead it to electoral catastrophe, and empty it and the country of any semblance of decency in the process. My answer is no. No to the groypers. No to their publicists like Tucker Carlson. No to those who champion them. No to demoralization. No to anti-Americanism. No. This is our country. This is our party. And this is our conservative movement. And I will not stand by while it is handed over to those who betray the most fundamental principles I have spent my entire life defending and advocating. That is a path to defeat and a path to moral oblivion. I reject it because if we lose the right, we will lose to the left. And either way, we'll lose the country.
Powerful words from Ben Shapiro, and indeed it's going to be testing times ahead for the conservative movement in America. And the question is, will they see sense or will they implode? Not sure. There's going to be a battle raging ahead, and they're going to have to make some critical choices. A quick message. We all hear about the Palestinian displacement, or Nakba, of 1948. But you know, there was another, even greater displacement that we haven't been told about. Nearly 1 million Jews were expelled from Arab lands at the exact same time. Watch the trailer for our new and absolutely essential documentary called The Real Nakba. And if you want to watch the full film, just click the link below in the video description. We've all been told about the Nakba, the Palestinian catastrophe of 1948. Around 700,000 Arabs were displaced. But here's what you're rarely told. That displacement didn't come from some Jewish plan for genocide. It wasn't Israel's goal. It wasn't Israel's desire. It happened because Arab leaders launched a war of annihilation. They tried to wipe out the newborn Jewish state, vowing to drive the Jews into the sea. And in the chaos of that war, people fled. Many because their leaders told them to, promising they'd return after victory. But the term Nakba was originally used to describe the fact that the Arabs lost the war, not the displacement. Now the term describes the displacement of war used as a political weapon against Israel. But you know, there was another Nakba you haven't been told about. A catastrophe rooted not in the fog of war, but in the clear, deliberate desire for persecution and genocide. It happened at the very same time, and it led to even more displacement. Yet most of the world has never heard of it. Over 850,000 Jews, more than the number of displaced Arabs, were driven from their homes across the Arab world. Communities that had thrived for millennia were uprooted overnight. Families stripped of citizenship, of property, of dignity. assaulted, expelled, forced to flee with nothing but their faith. Why? Because they were Jews. Because Israel dared to exist. Because the Arab League openly orchestrated it, drafting plans in 1947 to freeze Jewish bank accounts, seize property, and intern Jews as enemy nationals. This is the real Nakba, a catastrophe born of pure anti-Semitism. In this JTV documentary, we'll journey country by country, from Baghdad to Cairo, from Sana'a to Tripoli, uncovering buried truths and survivor voices. And no, this isn't a tale of victimhood, it's a saga of endurance, courage, and triumph. Because the Jewish people didn't just survive this Nakba, we rebuilt, we came home. In Israel, our phoenix soared from the ashes. So buckle up and let's dive in. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description.